Ever feel like your small contributions don't really matter in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, like only the big, splashy actions count.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to sort of pull back the curtain on that idea. We're diving into some ancient wisdom.
That's right. We're embarking on a deep dive looking into some excerpts from Buddhist literature, specifically focusing on this really fascinating story.
Oh, yeah. What's it called?
It's known as the Biḻālapadakaseṭṭhivatthu, or, well, maybe easier, the story of the cat footprint wealthy man.
Okay, a cat's footprint. That definitely paints a picture, doesn't it? Something small.
It does, and the story takes us way back to Seṭṭhi during the time of the Buddha.
Savatthi. Right. And it sounds like the community there, they had this quite admirable tradition going.
Absolutely. They regularly came together to offer alms, food and support to the Buddha and the monastic community.
A real communal effort.
Yes. And this community spirit is actually the backdrop for a key teaching from the Buddha, all about different ways of giving.
Different ways.
Yeah, and how they can lead to, well, pretty different outcomes. He actually laid out 4 distinct ways people give, each with its own potential consequences.
4 ways of giving. Makes you think, doesn't it? About your own approach, maybe.
It really does.
So what were these categories? And, what kind of results did the Buddha talk about? This sounds like the kind of thing that could really shift your perspective.
Okay, so the first type of giver, according to this teaching, it's someone who gives generously themselves, right?
Right.
But they don't really encourage others to join in.
Okay. So they do their part, but keep it to themselves.
Pretty much. And the interesting prediction here is that, yeah, they're likely to gain wealth in the future, but they might find themselves lacking, a supportive community, a network around them.
Wealthy, but alone.
Yeah.
That's quite a trade-off to think about. What's the second category then?
The second is almost the mirror image. These are the people who are really enthusiastic, always encouraging others to give, drumming up support.
Right, the organizers, the cheerleaders.
Oh, exactly, but they don't actually participate much in the giving themselves.
Oh, so what's the suggested outcome there?
Well, the idea is they'd likely have that large, supportive community, lots of connections, but maybe lack the material wealth side of things.
Huh, so it's like resources or relationships, but maybe not both easily. That definitely raises questions about balance.
It does.
What about the third type? I'm guessing it's not great.
You guessed right. The third category describes those who neither give themselves nor encourage anyone else to give, just completely disengaged from it.
Right. And the consequence?
The Buddha suggested they'd likely end up lacking both. No wealth, no supportive community, potentially facing, well, a very difficult life. Maybe even scavenging, the text implies.
Wow, that's a stark contrast. It really underlines how important generosity was seen in this context.
Absolutely central.
Look, okay, what's the fourth type? The one that presumably brings it all together.
Yes. The fourth type is the individual who embodies both aspects. They're generous in their own giving, and they actively encourage others to be generous too.
Right. Leading by example and bringing others along.
Exactly. And the predicted result for this person, attaining both wealth and a strong, supportive community. The best of both worlds, essentially.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. You contribute, you inspire others, creates a positive cycle.
Precisely.
Now, how does our cat footprint wealthy man fit into this? Was he inspired by this teaching or maybe provoked?
Well, the story tells us about a wise man in Savatthi. He heard this teaching directly from the Buddha and was deeply moved by it.
Okay.
He really grasped the value of striving for both things, material well-being and strong community ties. So he resolved right then to act in ways that would cultivate both.
And his first move was pretty ambitious, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. He decided to invite the entire monastic community, the Buddha included, for a meal the very next day.
The whole community. Wow, that's no small feat.
Not at all. And to make such a huge offering possible, he took a very community-focused approach. He couldn't do it alone.
So how did he manage it?
He went through the village, door to door almost, announcing his plan, this big meal, and he asked people to contribute whatever they could rice, other ingredients,
So pooling resources.
Exactly. He really emphasized this is a collective effort. Everyone who contributes shares in the merit, the positive outcome.
That sounds like a fantastic example of community spirit, really rallying together.
It does, doesn't it?
But going by the story's name, I'm guessing not everyone embraces wholeheartedly.
You're anticipating correctly. That's where our, let's say, less than enthusiastic wealthy man enters the picture.
The cat footprint guy himself.
The very same. So this wealthy man encounters the wise man who's collecting donations right outside his own shop.
Okay, prime position to contribute.
You'd think. But instead of feeling inspired, he apparently felt, well, a bit put out. Resentful, even.
Resentful, why?
It seems he thought, I've got my own money. Why is this guy involving the whole village? Is he trying to show me up? Maybe feeling his status was being undermined somehow.
Ego getting in the way.
Seems like it. And this resentment, it manifested in a really peculiar way when the wise man asked him to contribute.
This is the cat footprint part, I assume.
This is it. When asked for rice, beans, lentils, this wealthy man, showing incredible stinginess, just took a tiny pinch, literally what he could grasp between 3 fingers.
3 fingers, that's nothing.
Barely anything. And he just sort of reluctantly handed it over. This minuscule offering, like the size of a cat's paw print, that's what earned him the name Biḻālapadakaseṭṭhi.
Wow. It's almost hard to imagine someone with wealth being that measured, so tight.
It is quite striking. And it wasn't just a one-off, apparently. No, when it came to giving things like ghee or molasses, same story, he'd pour them out, drop by drop, from the container. Just the absolute minimum.
Painstakingly stingy.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder, what was driving that? Was it pure miserliness or fear or something else?
Good question. Now, the wise man, the one organizing everything, he saw this, right? How did he react to these tiny contributions?
Well, interestingly, he didn't just mix them in with everything else.
Oh, what did he do?
He collected all the generous donations from the other villagers together. But the wealthy man's tiny bits, he kept those separate.
Separate? Why would he do that?
Well, we can guess, but it certainly caught the wealthy man's attention. He saw his little offering being kept aside.
And that must have looked bad, or suspicious at least.
Exactly. It sparked suspicion in the wealthy man's mind. He probably thought, aha, he is singling me out. He's going to shame me.
Okay, so his paranoia kicks in. What did he do?
His suspicion grew, to the point where he decided he needed to know what was going on, so he sent one of his servants to secretly watch the wise man.
Spy on him.
Essentially, yes. Find out why his contribution was being handled differently. He was likely bracing himself for confirmation of his fears, expecting the servant to report back about some plan for public humiliation.
Right. And what did the servant actually see? Was the wealthy man's fear justified?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The servant's report was completely the opposite of what the wealthy man expected.
Really? What happened?
The servant watched the wise man preparing for the big meal, and he saw him carefully take the wealthy man's tiny pinch of rice, those few drops of ghee, and add them to all the other food being prepared, mix them right in.
Okay. But why keep them separate initially then?
We don't know for sure, maybe just practicality, but the crucial part was what the wise man did as he added them. The servant heard him making this heartfelt wish.
A wish?
Yeah, wishing that the wealthy man would receive great merit, immense benefit from his contribution, even though it was small.
Wow. So not judgment, but blessing. He was actively trying to enhance the merit of that tiny gift.
Exactly. It's a real turning point. The wise man wasn't being critical. He was meeting miserliness with, active generosity of spirit.
That's powerful. How did the wealthy man react when his servant told him this? He must have been stunned.
Stunned, yes. Probably taken aback, maybe even a bit ashamed, realizing his assumptions were totally wrong. The wise man wasn't planning to shame him at all.
So relief then.
You'd think so, but it seems this realization triggered a different kind of fear. Now, he wasn't afraid of being shamed for giving too little. He was perhaps afraid of looking foolish, or maybe just deeply unsettled by the whole thing. The fear of public exposure during the meal somehow twisted in his mind.
Twisted how?
Into something much darker. In his turmoil, he hatched this desperate, awful plan. He actually concealed a knife in his clothing.
No, why?
He intended to kill the wise man the next day at the meal.
Kill him. Just because he was generous in spirit towards him. That's a massive escalation. From stinginess to plotting murder.
It's a shocking turn, isn't it? It shows how disturbed he was, maybe by having his own negativity reflected back as kindness, or just pure panic about the situation.
Incredible. So what actually unfolded at the meal the next day? Did he go through with it?
Well, the next day arrives. The wise man serves the meal to the Buddha and all the monks a meal made from everyone's contributions, including that tiny cat's pawful.
Okay, the scene is set.
And then, after the meal, the wise man stands up and makes this really significant announcement to everyone gathered.
What did he say?
He basically declared that all the donations, It didn't matter if they were large or small, whatever people could give according to their means, all of it would bring great merit, great positive results to every single person who had contributed.
An inclusive blessing, no distinctions made.
Exactly. He didn't single anyone out, positively or negatively. He just affirmed the value of the collective effort and the shared benefit.
And this.
Huh.
This must have hit the wealthy man hard, given his secret plan.
It seems it was the absolute catalyst. Hearing those words, the universality of the blessing, the lack of any specific accusation or even mention of his small gift, it stopped him in his tracks.
How so?
He had this profound internal conflict. He realized the wise man truly wasn't going to expose him. He understood the genuine goodwill behind the words. And suddenly, the potential karmic consequences, the sheer wrongness of his violent plan, it probably hit him like a ton of bricks. He might have feared divine retribution, too.
That makes sense. The weight of his intended action versus the grace he was just shown.
Precisely. It's a powerful moment of how words, how intention conveyed through words can completely change someone's course.
It really is. So what did he do then, with the knife still hidden?
Overwhelmed, probably by a mix of remorse, relief, and maybe profound shame at his own intentions, he couldn't hold it together. He went right up to the wise man and prostrated himself right there at his feet, full on asking for forgiveness.
Wow. And did he confess?
He did. He confessed everything. His resentment, his fear, the knife, his intention to kill him. The whole story came pouring out.
What a dramatic scene. A complete turnaround.
Absolutely. And of course, this commotion didn't go unnoticed.
The Buddha saw this.
Yes. The Buddha, who was present throughout, observed this whole dramatic turn of events. He then gently inquired, asking the wise man what was happening.
And the wise man explained.
He did. He recounted the entire sequence right from the start, the wealthy man's initial reluctance, the tiny offering keeping it separate, the servant, the blessing, and now this confession and repentance. Laid it all out.
Okay, and this is where the Buddha steps in with a specific teaching, right? Addressing the wealthy man.
Exactly. The Buddha turned to the wealthy man, Biḻālapadakaseṭṭhi, and delivered a teaching that really captures the whole point of the story.
What was the core message?
He emphasized something crucial. You should never underestimate the power, the merit of even the smallest positive action, the smallest gift. Especially, he added, when it's offered towards a spiritual community, like the monks, led by someone like a Buddha.
So, context matters, but fundamentally, small good deeds add up.
Precisely. And then he shared this beautiful verse to really drive it home. Should I try and recall it?
Please do.
Okay, it goes. Mavamita punyasa, namata agamisati. Uda binduni patena, uda kumfopi purati diro punyasa, tokato kati achinanti.
That sounds really profound. What's the essence of it for us, the translation?
The Buddha explained it means don't ever despise merit, don't belittle a good deed, thinking, oh, this little thing, it won't amount to anything. Because just like a water jar gets filled, slowly but surely, by the constant falling of individual water drops.
Drop by drop.
Right. In the same way, the wise person becomes full of merit, full of goodness, by accumulating it patiently, even if it's just little by little, bit by bit.
Tokato kapiachinati, accumulating little by little.
Exactly. Every single drop counts towards filling the whole pot. Think about, say, learning a skill or saving money or even building trust in a relationship. It's often the small, consistent efforts that build up over time.
That's a fantastic analogy. It really resonates beyond just giving physical things. It's about consistent positive action.
Absolutely. It's a universal principle.
And what was the immediate effect of this teaching right there and then on the wealthy man?
It was transformative. The texts tell us that right at the end of this discourse, the wealthy man, our Biḻālapadakaseṭṭhi, attained the very first stage of enlightenment.
The first stage. Soṭṭhi.
That's the one, a major spiritual breakthrough, signifying he was firmly on the path. And it wasn't just him. The teaching was said to be beneficial for everyone who was there listening.
Wow. So his initial stinginess, that tiny cat's pawful, ironically became the catalyst for his own awakening.
Isn't that something? And the story itself, of course, became a lasting lesson, forever tying him to that seemingly insignificant contribution that started it all.
Biḻālapadakaseṭṭhi, the wealthy man named for the smallest possible act of giving.
Precisely. That single small act and the whole chain of events, it triggered the wise man's reaction, the wealthy man's fear, his change of heart. The Buddha's teaching it became this incredibly powerful illustration of generosity, intention, and how even the most modest acts can ripple outwards in profound ways.
This whole deep dive into the story of the cat footprint wealthy man, It's really been eye-opening. I mean, it just drives home that central idea, doesn't it?
That small acts matter.
Yeah, that even our seemingly tiny acts of generosity or kindness or effort, they really do contribute to something larger.
Yeah.
Both for ourselves, accumulating that merit like drops in a jar, and, for the community around us.
Absolutely. It makes you reconsider those times when you might hold back thinking, oh, what difference can my little bit make?
Totally. It feels like a real aha moment from this ancient story. A timeless perspective on, well, how interconnected everything is. Our actions, our intentions, their consequences. It challenges us to see the value in every act of giving, no matter the scale.
It's fascinating, too, how the wealthy man's journey went from feeling external judgment, what others would think, to this deep internal realization about merit and his own intentions.
Right. The focus shifted inward, so maybe a thought for everyone listening as you go about your day. Consider this. What small drop, maybe of generosity, maybe effort, maybe just kindness, what small drop might you be underestimating right now?
That's a great question. How might recognizing the value of every contribution, however modest it seems, actually change how you engage with your work, your family, your community?
Yeah. It really feels like the wisdom tucked away in this old story. It still has so much to offer us today. That faint footprint of kindness, it turns out, can leave a pretty big mark.